TTRPGs, oh yeah. They're gonna talk about sweet, sweet RPGs. And it's the TTRPGs, the RPG podcast. Am I getting paid for this one?
All right, welcome back to another episode of TTRPGs. This is episode 38. We are still going strong into 2024. Scott, we are back in the studio once again.
Yes, we are. And we've got a few things to chitty-chat about before we get into our main segment. Some good, some bad, and just, talk about some nice, wonderful things that arrived on our doorsteps. But starting off, let's have a quick little chat about a game we got invited to, which I'm extremely excited about. Why don't you tell the listeners what it is, Keith?
So we were invited to play a Call of Cthulhu game with the game designer Alex Guillotte, a friend of ours, friend of the show. His new scenario, it's a grindhouse scenario, which he's famous for writing. Mm-hmm. Los Hobos and the Wolves of Carcosa. It's a 1930s grindhouse scenario, and I couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It does take place in the 1930s, which kind of makes it different than his usual grindhouse scenarios.
Yeah, I know.
1970s usually, which is the perfect era for if you're doing something like that. But nothing says that you can't apply that aesthetic in a different point in time. But this doesn't take place on the East Coast near Maine. I think the name might give it away.
I think so.
but it's Alex's description was essentially it's a scenario about a group of hobos as they go from San Diego and down south into Baja California, which just sounds fantastic. You're not only are you not playing in the usual setting for that era, Europe or the East Coast, but you also are playing unconventional characters with their pre-gens, which is definitely a new take.
Oh, I know. So listeners, you can go look at Drive-Thru and you can see what the types of NPC types that you can run into. And God, I can't even think today. Sorry, my allergies, hay fever is killing me this week. Yeah. The types of NPCs you can run into the story. But the pre-gens he talked about are bananas. Yeah. So I'm super excited about that. I will comment though, if you've played any of Alex's other games, his other Call of Cthulhu games, there's some repeat things that are happening here.
Yes.
Right in the title, the Wolves of Carcosa, that's a repeat. So I'm curious to see what he's done with the Wolves of Carcosa. I'm not going to tell you what scenario they make another appearance in, but they make an appearance in another scenario that he's written, and they're used to good effect in that scenario. So I'm curious how they're used in this one. So this will be interesting for me personally to play in. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry. I'm curious to see he's taken it from the 1970s back into the mid 1930s. Mm-hmm. I know from having freelanced for Alex in the past as an editor on his grindhouse stuff that he had wanted to create kind of the origin story of this kind of greater network.
Yes.
That is in full swing in the 1970s and early 80s scenarios that he's doing. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping this is that nexus story of that. So I'm really excited to play this.
Well, he does mention in the notes on Drive-Thru that this is a light prequel to Carnival of Madness, which is kind of what Alex seems to have been doing since Highway of Blood. Is he's creating this interconnected Alexverse or Grindverse or something that right. This is Call of Cthulhu. This definitely connects to other things within the Call of Cthulhu setting, but he's fine tuning it and making it his own. And things, these wonderful little Easter eggs, this interconnectivity, and it's as it does, it's growing and growing and becoming a bigger thing. So, if you've played in Alex's games, I would imagine, like you said, there's going to be, little bombs and Easter eggs going, oh, wait, was that from this and this and that? Or is this, pertain to this other thing in the 70s? So I'm excited about this. And also it takes place on a train. I mean, what's better than having a Call of Cthulhu scenario on a train? Even if
the last time I was on a train, it didn't turn out so well.
I mean, I say for fun. For your player characters, no, not so much.
Right.
Not so much.
What the hell?
Yeah, trains always suck for them. But for enjoyment, and especially the keeper, nothing,
absolutely.
Nothing says fun about a little self-contained horror on a overland train or on a ship or something like that, where you're stuck. Well, you can jump off the train, but good luck with that.
Good luck.
Yeah. So, and the other another plus is it comes with a genuine hobo recipe for some mulligan stew.
I know.
So there's pluses for that.
There's some other things that Alex teased with me as he was developing this, writing it and revising it.
Yeah.
Because I didn't edit this project, somebody else did. So I'm curious. I know what they are. They're not like story giveaways, so it's not giving me any kind of player advantage or spoiler. They're thematic, but I'm just curious if they've entered the story. And
okay.
I'm not saying anything because I don't want to spoil the surprise for you if they do make it into the story.
Yeah.
Definitely adult oriented. That's all I'll say.
Hey.
Much like Alex's stories that he writes.
Yes.
And publish or collaborates on and publishes. They're very adult oriented anyways, just in their themes and general topics at large. But so it'll be interesting to see what made the cut, what didn't make the cut. So
yes, well, maybe in the future we can have a spoiler content warning discussion about it after we play, as soon as we can schedule a game between now and 2035. As
I
things
know
tend to be.
Scheduling anything is a pain in the ass.
I can do Sunday. I can't do Sunday. Well, what about Saturday? Well, I can do Saturday.
I can only do Saturday between 2 and 2:45 p.m.
I can't make it till 5:30. It's definitely been one of those scheduling that with everyone else. But still, I'm sure it'll follow through. So yeah.
On another topic, you mentioned something that wasn't so good.
Yes.
So what is that? Because I know that involves you, not you personally, but it's near and dear to you.
Yeah. So I'm here to lament the passing of another friendly local game store. Unfortunately, it is one of mine here in Southern California, called Critical Hit Games. It's there in Corona. And it is run by my dear friend Darren, who, when I first came to the store, wasn't a dear friend, but we have become lasting friends since then. And it is. It's just it's the kind of the same old song and dance that has happened for a lot of retail stores. Is he made it through the pandemic? Thankfully, it was a lot of work and a lot of things, happening to it, but the changing in some of the things, how vendors and others are providing their product to small stores, inventory issues, the rising cost of everything, and inflation, and the other such things as. The one of the good things about his game store was it's gigantic. There's a lot of free open space, and with tables for everyone to play, anything that they want, miniature wargaming, trading card games, role-playing games, board games, whatever. Sure. With that usually comes a cost, with people just using and abusing that privilege and essentially turning a game store into just their own personal hangout. And so a lot of people have no problem coming there to, sit down and play a game and have fun, and then promptly leave the store without dropping a single penny time and time again.
Yeah, that's a perpetual problem. My local game stores here face that all the time. But yet if they implement like a table charge, like, hey, you want to play, it's $2 to play it, just to use a table or a chair at a table, that kind of thing. People get up in arms. I don't want to pay to play, blah, 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 blah. And
right. Yeah, that's what he tried. And, it went kind of half and half with that. You know, there are the people who, sure, no problem. Others, of course, why? Why are you charging me? And of course, if you go into, his financials, you'll see that this person hasn't bought anything since, 2018.
Yeah, exactly.
And then others who, and this is another justifiable argument that's like, hey man, I just dropped, $400 on Magic cards. Why do I have to pay to play at the table? And so there's a swinging pendulum in that, and like, him giving people passes and others don't, and others like, well, why does he get a pass and I don't? And I know a lot of game stores do that, but it does kind of weed out, certain people who are just there.
Freeloaders.
They just want to play there rather than at their home or someone else's. But he had a good run. He had a wonderful vendor spot at Strategicon for many, many years, which, according to him, he's going to continue to do that. That's not going south. So you can definitely look for him selling his his games and other stuff at Strategicon, and likewise, he also is going to have a presence at WonderCon here and an Anime Con. I don't know what it is, but it's a big Anime Con in LA. Okay. So he will still be doing that on the side. But as far as the physical storefront, it will be no more. And in fact, shortly after we're done recording, I'll be going over to the game store because today is going to be like a farewell potluck thing. So we'll definitely, go over there. But now that's not to say that, there isn't funny aspects about that. So of course, with the store closing comes liquidation. And not only does he have board games to sell, RPGs, and also a lot of demo games in his library. There's tables and shelves and whatnot. But when he finally made the announcement, we were, the local group that plays there, which he is one of them. He's like, well, it looks like, we're closing down. We're like, man, that's horrible. So can I have that? We're looking around the room. How much are you charging for this now? Oh, 30% off. Would you do 50? So, and we were kind of joking, but yeah, as much as you lament, your good friend's aspect of losing the business, there's still that little evil vulture inside of you going, well, shit, that game's normally $60.
Can I get it for 20?
Exactly. It's like, So, but yeah, it is unfortunate, and who knows what may come with in the future. But it's just just kind of it was either carry on and continue to accrue debt, or let's just close it down. And we had a good run, and we'll see what happens in the future sometime, hopefully. So, but the good news is he's a good friend. So not only is the game store going away, but I'm not losing my friend, so he's still going to be around. So whereas if, your standard game store where you just kind of know the owner, once those doors shutter, you would probably never talk with them ever again. So, right.
It's like my friend Jacob, who owns the little game store around the corner from my house. Like if he had to close the shop for any reason, like he and I would still be friends. We'd still get together, socialize, and, do whatever from time to time, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we socialize not just through games, but other things. So it's a regular friendship, like you and I, not others where it's like you only see them once a month at your gaming table, and then outside of that, you never talk about anything. So
exactly. Well, that's a bummer. Yeah. I mean, I always hate to hear the local gaming stores closing, but it's a reality of life. I mean, businesses come and they go. It just sucks when it's like this hobby's already struggling. Mm-hmm. Card flopping pays the bills, and I fully get that. And, board gamers do need a place to play, and game clubs need a place to play, and role players need a place to play.
Yeah.
But those latter mentioned groups typically don't spend a lot of money, if much at all, ever
Right.
at a local game store to buy something because they typically don't impulse buy.
No.
Or very rarely impulse buy. They tend to buy online, unfortunately. Now, that's not to say everybody. A lot of people do still support their local game stores.
Right.
But they will typically buy online and then go try to play at their local game store, from time to time or all the time. And that's kind of shitty too. And then they're the same people like, I don't want to pay a table fee to play.
Yeah. I mean, he even went so far as to, well, if you buy some of, the drinks or the snacks that we have here, that'll be the same. And people are like, they're with their pizza and their burger that they brought in with them going, well, why should I do that? So I get it. And as much as I want to, scream into the void regarding that, that's one of those constant things that has always been and will continue to be a struggle as long as there's friendly local game stores around.
Yeah, no, the one that really irks me is when they want to. I don't mind paying like a fair price. Okay, cool. You want to play a board game? It's a 3-hour game. Okay, $5. Everybody pays $5. You can have the table for a couple of 3-4 hours. Cool, not a problem.
Yeah.
I don't mind. Like it's like when we go, the local game club meets at a coffee place the second Saturday of every month, and then the fourth Saturday of every month they meet at a brewery.
Okay.
And the intent is there's no table fee, but the intent is you buy drinks, you buy meals, you patronize the business. Okay, cool, not a problem. Usually we eat first, have a beer, and then we at the brewery, and then we play. And spend money and play games. What I don't like is there's this one local place, and I don't know how they stay in business. I'm not going to mention their name, but they have a room they call their D&D room, not role-playing room. They call it D&D room, and they kitted it out like a medieval tavern. It's really nicely done, and they advertise it as a D&D room. Again, they're not like there's any other role-playing games out there, and their D&D room is like some ungodly amount of money, like $40 or $50 an hour.
Ooh.
To rent. Now, the intent is everybody pitches in.
Right.
But it's like $40 or $50 the last time I looked per hour to rent this thing. And I'm like, fuck no.
No,
it's ridiculous.
That's what you pay for like a special event, like those birthday places that existed when our kids were smaller, and the reason why the prices are so exorbitant is because you're only doing it once a year, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But if you're meeting week after week, paying $150 or more to run your game, that's insane. That's insane. So they're probably a criminal front for a different operation. So
I don't know. So I pulled up their website just because I have to go look because I don't want to be misquoted. So they have memberships, right? Gives you table reservations like outside of the D&D room because it says membership does not include D&D room.
Oh, Jesus.
Because I wanted to look. Oh, so here it is. RPG World. A tavern's all tavern time must be booked in advance. Our medieval tavern can be home for your next D&D session. La da 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 da. Free non-alcoholic drinks. Dungeon map screen and control board are included. Looks like it's got a top-down projector onto the table. Oh, so it has some IT stuff with it. Yeah. It is $50 an hour.
I mean, okay. Now, some people would go, well, you get free drinks and you get all this stuff. You and I have seen through the veil when it comes to a lot of retail stuff.
If you're going to play a 4-hour game, it's $200 fucking dollars.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
And all the free drinks that they're providing in the world that they're literally probably paying 15-20 cents per can on or bottle or whatever wholesale doesn't make a bit of difference in that. But the good news is, I believe if you look in the fine print, it does come with a large bottle of lube. So.
Yes, that says right here in the fine print under free non-alcoholic drinks also includes copious amounts, 1 gallon bottle of KY, his and hers,
to make getting it stuck up the ass so much easier.
Oh, all right, that's enough of that. I'm sorry to hear your buddy's game store is closing.
Yeah, I know, but
if you find any good deals tonight when you go, let me know.
Absolutely. So but moving on to another positive aspect. You and I got a wonderful package in the mail full of all sorts of goodness and goodies. And, I spoke about it, a bit on my YouTube channel, but still really haven't, that's just my opinion of it all. But stop me there and say, Keith, what did you get in the mail?
So I got my contributor's copy of the Blessed and the Blasphemous, a Call of Cthulhu campaign, not a scenario, but an actual full-blown soup to nuts campaign from the Sons of the Singularity. Mm-hmm. So for listeners that go all the way back, we've had Jason, one of the company owners, on the show in the past on a previous episode, and they put out some great products and they deliver on their Kickstarters.
Yes.
So, yeah, but I only got the book, so I have not gotten the dossier yet. You got the dossier, which is a supplemental box with the GM screen and then all kinds of handouts, NPC sheets. Mm-hmm. So you get pre-gens in there, printouts, NPC sheets that are all printed out.
Yes.
Lore sheets, which are supplemental things you can use within the game. It's a shtick that Sons of the Singularity created a couple of books ago, and they've continued with it.
Okay.
And then there's some card. There's like these little miniature. They look like passport photos, size-wise, and they're NPC images. Mm-hmm. And then there's a deck of I want to say they're about. They look like, from your video, they look to be about index card size.
Yeah,
4x6 index card size, and they're like pieces of maps and various handouts within the game at a much reduced size for using with the evidence board.
Yeah, no, it's a wonderful flair, with that, because, handouts and things like that are always welcome and always nice, but the organizational aspect of that can be a bit tedious. And then especially if you're one of the groups who like to have an evidence board, and the papers and whatnot of various sizes will start to overlap and stack up, and it can become a mess. But just having those little index cards that they have, and just makes it nice and neat. And also the fact that, and I mean, to be fair, this is kind of a Chaosium thing, but that they have fully statted out character sheets. Chaosium doesn't do it as much. They may just have a few key skills in there, but it's nice. It's nice to have NPCs fully statted out, because I guarantee you at some point in time, you're going to have to make a roll for something that's not on the 5 or 6 skills that they have. And you're either going to have to wing it or guess or whatever, and it could stall the game. But it's so much nice just to look on the sheet and go, oh, they don't know how to shoot a gun, so they're going to be rolling at this base level or something like that. So, and it just makes it a little bit more fair to the players, because nothing gives you the steely eye where you're kind of looking like, oh, he doesn't have anything here for firearms. He's at 89.
I know, right? What's base on that again?
I know. They're like, what?
Yeah. So I'm glad to see they did all that. I was curious to see how it was going to turn out as far as the dossier kit is concerned. Mm-hmm. I haven't gotten my dossier yet. They're going to send it to me sometime, and then probably over the next month or two, I'll get it in the mail.
Wait, hold up.
What?
You mean they provided stuff to the backers first before they gave you contributor copies and make stuff and release stuff for retail use? Wow.
So, yes and no. So
I'm joking, but yeah.
No, I know you are, but so they are. So for the record, they are really good about making sure that backers get their stuff before anything goes out for retail sale, like through their website or onto drive-through for digital, any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. They're really good about that. Yeah. Another check mark for them, right? And how they do business. Contributors, depending on where the individuals were living, there was some in Canada, US, Japan. We got our contributor copies, physical copies, at different times, depending on when warehouses got the stuff, the inventory. Right. So, and that's fine. And my package actually took a very circuitous route to get to me. Funny story. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but so it left somewhere in Illinois, went down through Chicago, went to Greensboro, North Carolina, which is a Southeast U.S. Postal Service sorting hub. Mm-hmm. Sat there for a few days, then went back to a place in Illinois, back to Chicago. A few days later, it's back in Greensboro. Then it makes its way to Charleston, to the local sorting center, and then finally delivered to me where I live in my town.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
So it took like 15 days media mail to get to me, when normally media mail takes like 5 to 7 days to get to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought it was when I watched the tracking, I thought it was getting returned to sender.
Yeah.
So I was getting kind of worried.
And just to clarify, in case someone, says something, regarding my little statement, personally as a backer, I really could give a shit if the contributors get a copy also before me or during that, simply because you contributed to the creation of this thing. There should be nothing wrong with you getting a copy of the book, either before or alongside the Kickstarter backers. And to be fair, that is also usually a good way for, like, as Keith, as you get your contributor copy, you may find something that might be a mistake, and just, so it's noted and whatnot. But my joke is just based upon, this is going to time the episode, of course, but the whole Knave second edition fiasco and them selling copies at Gen Con while backers are still sitting there going, wait, where's my stuff? So that's just
some
a little
companies
jab.
just fail at that.
Yeah, just a little jab, but yeah.
Yeah.
So well, shall we, wrap up our little conversation here?
Let's move on to our main episode. We are going to talk about something that's a little hot potato, shall we say?
Yep.
So
grab your oven mitts.
Yep. Grab your oven mitts and join us in the main segment as we toss around a hot potato.
Well, welcome back, listeners, to our main topic. And before we dive into it, I just want to start out saying that the opinions expressed by the Titterpigs are ours and ours alone, and is not meant to be taken as the opinions of others.
Incoming hot potato!
And this is essentially going to be old man stands on soapbox and yells at cloud. But so without further ado, some of the things that we're just going to talk about off the cuff is tabletop role-playing game drama that exists primarily in the virtual spaces, but they do tend to bleed out into the real world. And more often than not, they have a very negative effect on people and companies, and usually very unwarranted, in my opinion. So Keith, you ready for this one?
I'm about as ready as I'm ever going to be. I got my oven mitts. I've got my fireproof face shield. It's a welder's mask.
Right.
I'm ready.
Awesome. So I am as guilty as anyone, right? Being pulled into a lot of the things that may occur online.
Stir the fucking pot. Let's be clear.
Okay. So stirring the pot is different than creating the drama. Now, mind you,
fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
Now, there are several things that can occur, again, both virtually and in the real world that, may warrant this kind of drama and discussion. A perfect example is the OGL debacle. Totally warranted to, raise the cockles of many people and just, crying,
Is cockles a word? I'm just kidding.
I mean, it is now. You're an editor. You should know.
I'm kidding.
But yeah, so definitely should warrant, those picking up their flaming torches and pitchforks and rallying against the, the ridiculous situation that WotC put itself in. But then there's the other kind that tends to be more prevalent these days that didn't exist, before. Or if it did, it wasn't quite as front and center. That's usually fabricated and contrived. Classic example would be the situation involving Leyline Press and their announcement of firing an editor because of their association with a company they didn't like. Now, right. And that did not need to occur, period. There was absolutely zero reason for that other than, someone wanting to shine the light on themselves for being, whatever it may be. It's proving to the world that, they're standing up for what they believe in and yada, 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 yada. But most of us saw it for what it was, and
They were a dick.
yeah, and there was just no reason for it. And so let's go back in time a little bit, Keith. Drama, tribalism, all this shit has been around since day one.
Oh yeah. I mean, we can go back to pick any magazine, right?
Yeah.
Dragon, Dungeon, Pyramid, any of the other myriad of industry zines that have come and gone from the game scene over the decades, right?
Right.
Letters to the editor, pages to the Pages of the Mages, or whatever the hell it was in the D&D magazines. When you were asking about rules questions, because
right,
you start talking about rules. Is it rules as written? I mean, that's its own dumpster fire right there.
Correct.
So this whole thing predates the gaming hobby, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it has continued all along. It just takes a new form, and it spreads like wildfire.
Right. And
I think that's the biggest difference.
Right. And back in the day, your access to this was extremely limited. Even if you were into it, you would have to wait for next month's issue of whatever your favorite magazine or fanzine was,
right,
to see if someone's hot topic question that was in the pages of the editor, carried on. And this would make for, if you were a gamer, this would make for water cooler talk, or these things may present themselves at something like a convention or a game store. But one of the things that it never really did was had a direct negative impact on people's lives within this discussion. These discussions would occur. The debate would, carry on for a bit, and people would just, wash their hands and carry on with their life. But with the existence of, the internet and things such as Twitter and other social media, not only do these dramas never really go away, but they carry on far, far longer than necessary, have huge impacts on people's lives that, like I mentioned earlier, are unwarranted. And now the water cooler, which usually has about 5 or 6 people around, gossiping, now has thousands upon thousands of people.
Oh my God, yeah.
Throwing in their 10 cents and getting involved in people's lives that they probably shouldn't be, to be fair. There's really,
right.
There's several hot topics that you just you look at and you just go, why are you doing this? People losing, backers, not because the quality of their game is at a deficit or they're late or whatever, but no, because one of the authors of the game was cheating on another person in the hobby, and therefore that person is vile, and I'm just going to cancel all association with it. Now, being cheated on is a horrible thing. I'm not justifying that whatsoever, but personal aspects like that, have predominantly been bleeding into what technically should be in the RPG drama world, things revolving around a game, or some aspect of it.
That's where this whole thing really just boggles my mind, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I'm a little bit older.
Right.
Maybe it's because I have a different worldview on things. Mm-hmm. Having been in the military or associated to the military for now this month as we're recording, it's 30 years. Mm-hmm. Yay me. My perspective on a lot of things over the last 30 years has greatly changed from the time I virtually left home till today. Mm-hmm. Let's say little Janie, Janie's an author in this project, right? For Company X.
Yep. And
little Janie's over in the corner banging little Johnny over there because that's what she wants to do, but she's cheating on, Matt over here.
Right.
I don't give 2 fucks who's screwing who.
Right.
It has as long as little Janie can write the material for this company's project, that's all I care about.
Right.
Does that make her or them a sleazy person? I don't care what they do in their personal life.
Right. Exactly.
People are going to fucking people.
Right.
People.
Yes.
I mean, let's face it. People are going to people. Mm-hmm. People are not the best, right? We say dumb stuff. Mm-hmm. Right? Somebody's going to say, oh, Keith said stupid shit about little Janie there that, well, we shouldn't support that company because she's screwing somebody in the corner. Right? People say things and do things that we don't all agree with.
Correct.
That doesn't mean that when it comes to this hobby, if it doesn't directly impact their ability to create something that they're paid to create, then who the fuck cares?
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Now, caveat on that, if they're out there, let's just say in this example, this author is out there and she's not out there screwing somebody, right? And cheating on her partner or whatever it is, right? But she's out there, waving a swastika flag real high. Right. And, that's a different conversation.
Of course it is.
Does politics play into some of this? It can. I'm not going to say it does every time. I don't care that she's a Republican or a Democrat. Right. Or if she's from England, a Green Party or Tory or Labor or whatever, right? I don't care. Right. But if you're out there espousing hate speech or things that are absolutely contrary to my personal, closely held beliefs, right? Right. Anti-trans, anti-LGBTQ, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Go fuck yourself. Right. But real rudimentary, basic things in life, people are going to cheat on people. Yeah. People are going to have political affiliations that are fundamentally accepted in the world, basic political parties. I don't care. Right. No, it shouldn't affect a project. No, not people should not get up in arms. Not to the point where you personally make a decision. I'm not going to back this because of this. Great, fantastic. Do it because that's your personal predilections. But when you start going on to social media or telling people, hey, you shouldn't do this because of what little Johnny did to little Debbie, or vice versa. Yeah. Yeah. Would you like a zebra cake? Oh my God. But, so many jokes, but, that's where that's where the drama kind of unfolds. You're right. And I hate to use this term, but I mean, it will, everyone's, associated with it, the whole canceling aspect of, it reeks of not, hey, I am justified to do this because one way or another, I've been either hurt or some other aspect of that on a particular level, but it turns into, I'm just letting you know to now I'm seeking revenge because there's a huge difference between, hey, I'm just letting you know this person's a bad person to I want to destroy them and make sure that they don't exist, either within the hobby or anymore. Right. And that's where it takes those horrible turns, like but I'll give you a counterpoint, the ley line press thing. But go on. Right. I'll give you a counterpoint. Yeah. And maybe it's just human nature. I have college degrees. I have way more college degrees than I want to admit to, but psychology is not one of them. Okay. People are people. Right? So if you and I are friends, if you said, hey, this author is working for this company over here and that author fucked me on a project, on a previous project they did with a different company, I'm not going to back them. So therefore your opinion has value to me. Right. I wouldn't go back them. And then I might tell somebody else, well, hey, Scott mentioned this to me, and I'm not going to back them because I value Scott's opinion and his negative experience with that particular author. Nothing against the company they're working for now, but that particular author, I'm not going to support their work. And now that third person might go, oh, well, I value Keith's opinion, and therefore I value Scott's opinion, and that's how it grows. So when all of that kerfuffle happened with Leyline Press, I saw some of that happen. Yes. Where for those in the know, I saw that start to spread out. Right. Even those outside of the circle of knowledge started to take a stance, either for the company, going, oh, hey, you did great, fuck the editor. Or those that were standing with the editor who didn't even know who the editor was because they literally wrote him out of the book completely and said, you know what? No, fuck you as a company. You paid him or her to do work. You need to give that person credit regardless. So they were taking stances. Now, their opinion is then espoused to their friends, and then it starts to perpetuate. Right. So all of that to say as a counterpoint, things spread whether we want them to or not. Right. And especially more rapidly now because things get said on social media, Zoom calls like we're having right now, or that we regularly hold throughout the week, with between you and I and our other close friends, and other people do the same thing all the time.
Right.
Those water cooler chats are copious in number, especially with, modern communication technology now.
Right.
So,
yeah,
I mean, you really can't stop it. Once it starts, it's like a fucking freight train.
Right. And I think one of the points that, we'll probably get to with this is you can't stop it, but you can definitely remove yourself from it.
Sure.
And or don't participate in it, or don't let it sway your decision. I see so many things on, particular sites, whether it be one corner of the hobby or the other corner of the hobby. And one of the big things is like, hey, does anyone have a list for me of people I shouldn't buy their games?
Oh, that infuriates me.
And, and some people say, yeah, here's this and here's that. Whereas other people like, hey, man, this is stupid. No list. Go out, make an informed decision, find out for yourself. And then if you're either okay with whatever the quote unquote issue is or whatever, or if you're not, then you've made a personal decision. Don't. I mean, even if it's.
I know that list you're referring to. And some listeners may know that list.
Yeah. But there's others, right? The list you're referring to, there's other people who would probably be on that list who want to make their own list. So vice versa, and it just you just sit there and go,
yeah,
why? Because I mean, if we stop and think about it, to be perfectly honest, I think it's maybe 2 fingers. Maybe 3, where within the RPG hobby, there's legitimately maybe 3 people that actually warrant, being on maybe a list just because of the horrendous things they've either done or associated themselves with that is virtually unforgivable. Everything else is just someone's opinion. I don't like this person because they voted Democrat, or I don't like this person because they ran their company wrong and they yelled at people in the office and they hurt someone's feelings, or I don't like this person because they edited a game for a company I don't like. And all of that is just utter bullshit. And you mentioned earlier, I stir the pot, right? Okay. So, and I said, well, I don't usually create the drama. I've gotten better, but I've thrown my 10 cents in a lot of things.
You have.
But usually what rallies me to do that is not necessarily the situation itself, but when I start seeing the unfair aspects of people being targeted and treated horribly, or assumptions are made, and that's when I'm kind of going, hey man, bullies exist on both sides of the political spectrum, right? It's not just a right thing, and there's on the leftist side there's bullies, and I'm saying right and left, not necessarily as a political spectrum, just as a kind of an easy leaning point,
Right. Okay.
I could say grognards and what they like to call, purple-haired indie players or some bullshit like that, right? Everyone's got to have their jabs. But anyways, both feel equally virtuous and both can be equally horrible and acidic in how they handle these situations. And that tends to be where I jump in and just kind of go, hey, you're being ridiculous here. This is absurd. These people don't deserve this kind of just bile that you're spewing at them because, well, another example, because they showed a placard of people attending a seminar that they're running. Something like that, and the people who are presented are not horrible people. It's just, it didn't adhere to a particular aesthetic that they wanted to see. And rather than just say, hey, maybe, would you consider doing this? It is like, oh God, no, let's get out the pitchforks. Let's light up the torches and burn them because they should know better. That's kind of where,
that goes back to the idea of the list, right? Mm-hmm. Because a lot of us within the hobby know that these lists exist, right?
Yeah.
Whether we agree that they're a bad thing or a good thing, everybody's got their opinion.
Right.
I think they're absolute stupid. Mm-hmm. But there are a group of people back pre-pandemic, when all of this cancel culture stuff started. This woke cancel culture stuff started.
Yeah.
And they created these lists, and they're basically green, yellow, red. I mean, they literally stoplighted this stuff.
God.
And if a company, and it's by company, not necessarily by author, unless it's an author/company.
Yes.
Is green, they are not woke, and you should support them. If they are yellow, they're questionable.
Yeah.
And if they're red, they've done something that's so egregious.
Yeah.
Like maybe they use non-binary terms in their book, or the company supports LGBTQ initiatives with proceeds from a project or whatever it was.
Yeah. They had pronouns on their character sheet. Can you believe that?
Oh, I know, right?
Yeah.
Then they're red. They're stoplighted. Like, you hard stop. You should not,
right.
Support that company in any way. Don't buy their products. Or if they use safety tools or anything like that,
Yeah.
And those lists exist. Now, opposite lists exist too. I've seen those where, this company supports racist initiatives or uses racist language. They're a hard stop. Or, this company author is a convicted murderer. Hard stop. Don't buy their stuff.
Yeah.
So it goes on both sides, one end of a spectrum to the other. And if you have very strong feelings about things, people need to do their own research.
Yes.
And formulate their own opinions. Don't listen to other people's opinions lock, stock, and barrel, right? If it's a very close friend or family member that says, hey, I had this experience with this publisher or this author, if it was you or my son or somebody else that was a close friend or whatever, I'm going to value their opinion because I trust them. But if it's, willy-nilly, John or Janie off the internet, I'm not going to trust their opinion.
No.
I'm going to go do if I think it's important to me that, this author was reported at being at a pro-Nazi rally. I'm not supportive of that kind of stuff.
Right.
I'm going to go do my own fucking research to make sure that that's a factual statement. And if it is, if I find that it's factual, then no, I'm not going to support that.
Yeah.
That author. Or if that author's being hired by a company, therefore, ergo, I'm not going to support that company either.
And you may find out that Tom Smith, someone says, hey man, why are you playing that game? That guy's a total Nazi. And you may go do your research and you find out, the reason why they're calling him a Nazi is because his game has orcs as just evil. And that's where you kind of go, I mean, no. But again, that's where within this drama, there's been a lot of watering down of these hard terms that are used to define, certain, negative or horrible aspects in our world that are being so watered down because people are just tossing them out just because someone doesn't like something. And
like terms like Nazi, fascist, racist, homophobe. I mean, these terms have real meanings and can really affect, they affect real people mentally.
Correct.
You label somebody as a Nazi or a homophobe. I mean, that can have real world repercussions to like their daytime or nighttime employment, whatever, like their real world income, opportunities and stuff. And just because you think in the world of the role-playing hobby that somebody uses orcs and you think that's,
racist,
a fascist thing, or, they're a Nazi because they use orcs, or they're racist because their drow are dark-skinned.
Or all evil, something like that.
Or all evil, and that's heretofore that's a replacement for racism. You're probably the problem.
Yeah.
Not the person.
Yeah.
Now if that person that's doing the said thing is legitimately intermixing, like they're using their, drow as dark-skinned, evil in a way to mirror real-world
analogs,
concepts and peoples, and basically mock and imitate real-world racism. Well, that person's the problem, but you have to be able to define each and be able to separate them before you just use a generic statement.
Right. And I've seen both.
Yeah.
I've seen both.
Yeah, I have too.
I have seen, many a game where it's just like, oh, wow, this he's doing this or she's doing this or whomever is doing this on purpose because, this must be a hateful, vile individual. And usually those things are easy to spot because it stands out like a sore thumb. And then there's your red flag, like, screw this, I'm moving on and never doing anything associated with them in the game. Whereas others, oh, all of their monsters are evil. Okay, well, they're racist. It's like, here's an example of that. Read this and then come back and tell me because, Billy Bob, made all kobolds short, therefore he must be shortest or something like that. Or he doesn't allow halflings to have 1800 strength because, I can't believe I said 1800. Wow. 18 strength. Wow. Yeah, there you go. I'm old. Therefore he must hate old people. Or if this person doesn't allow, dungeon wheelchairs in their game, they're ableist, or things like that.
Right.
It's just people are just applying these labels willy-nilly in general disagreements, and yet it's having these negative impacts on certain people. It's like, hey man, no, my grandfather's in a wheelchair. I just don't want wheelchairs in my dungeon because I just don't think that they fit. And not. Well, hey man, that makes you ableist. The term that I hate, and I get it because it's an old term and it did apply at a certain point, but it's the walk like a duck thing, right? If it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, it's a duck. And they'll apply that to things like that. And again, that's another term that's been watered down. If you don't like combat wheelchairs in your game, therefore you must be ableist.
Right.
Now, there's plenty of people out there who are screaming and ranting, and because they found out about this thing, but they're taking it to the extreme because those are the ones that are screaming woke on everything, and they do the same. Right. It's the same exact thing. Anything that doesn't comply with their way of playing suddenly becomes woke. And again, they're just as guilty as doing the same thing as people being labeled with these horrible monikers just because there's a disagreement or
exactly.
Yeah. So
like with the combat wheelchair thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like I have never in my 40 years of gaming, mm-hmm. I have as a player and as a game master, I have never encountered that. Now, obviously, it's a more modern construct within the gaming scene. And I'm sure I'll encounter it eventually where another player or as a game master, somebody wants to play that. Mm-hmm. Their character's differently abled. They're in a wheelchair or has a prosthetic, whatever. At that time, if I'm a game master, I will have to make that decision. Mm-hmm. Do I allow it or don't I allow it? Yeah. But, the first time it comes up, it's one of those things that I have to kind of figure out because I've never had to deal with it. So when it comes to like adventure design and determining difficulties and things like that has to be factored in, and mm-hmm. I haven't had to deal with it. So if I say no, does that make me a dickbag? Some will call me an asshole and an ableist because like, oh, you're not allowing them. No, I'm not allowing it because A, I'm disabled. B, I'm a disabled vet. But B, I am. So don't give me that I'm an ableist bullshit. Yeah. But B, I'm not totally comfortable with it because I don't know how to do it justice properly. Right. From a game master standpoint, because I don't want to make a mockery of it. But you also don't want you don't want it to break your game. Well, I don't want it to break my game, and I don't want the player who is playing in a character in a wheelchair, who may in real life be sitting there at my table, virtually or in real space, in a wheelchair. I don't want them to have a miserable game experience either, because everybody at the table should have the opportunity to have a great game experience, regardless and play of who they are, however they want within the scope of the game that you're presenting. Right. And no, I get it. When you look at it as, hey, it's just another tool or rule in the game,
It is just something else that is no different than what other people allow or disallow in a game. Like a lot of people, classic example, Call of Cthulhu. Many people hate those chase rules. If they,
I hate them.
Yeah, and therefore they'll just throw them out, or they'll do like a watered down version of it. Now, are you an asshole for not allowing the chase rules in there because it's a mechanic that you feel either slows down the game or might create some sort of issue, or again, you just don't know how to adjudicate it within the scope of the game you're running? No. So if you say, well, hey man, this is a deep dark dungeon, there's really no real easy way for you to maneuver around this thing other than we just give you this totally overpowered tool that will then now break the game, because it's like, because suddenly you're going from a dungeon crawl where they have to use their wits and utilities and stuff that are available to them to try to persevere. But then, there's Timmy, who's got his magical flying, apparatus that he can just sail through everything in God mode. And again, that's not me saying, no, you shouldn't. I don't care. If you want to have all of your players, in a magical wheelchair in your game, great. And if you find some way to make it work, fantastic. If I'm running a game where it's like, hey, this really doesn't make a bit of difference, so I don't see why it should be an issue, throw it in there. But if I go just like any other thing where it's like, hey man, there's this particular game that I'm running, doesn't have Dragonborn in it, so I'm not allowing Dragonborns to be used in character creation. Okay, now there will be people go, what do you mean? I should be able to do whatever I want. But but it's, if you take a moment and look at it with a mature point of view and go, okay, it makes sense why you're not allowing that because of what you're trying to present in your game. But if I ever run another game and Dragonborn fit in, great. The doors are open.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. A lot of times you just need to put context with it.
Exactly.
And most mature individuals will be like, okay, not a problem.
Yeah,
I get it.
Yeah.
When it comes to this piece of the topic, my biggest thing is making sure that everybody, if I'm the game master, making sure everybody has ample opportunity to have a good experience at the table. I don't want somebody to walk away not having a good experience.
Right.
And it's not like in the case of like a combat wheelchair, right? It's not like I'm saying arbitrarily saying no just to say no. I would take it on a case by case basis and try to make it work. I just, as of today of recording this episode, I have not run into this. So
no, I haven't.
It may happen soon. It may never happen. I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen it. And with that, kind of thing, you then get the other people, the other publishers who go, oh shit, this is a thing. And they start doing their own thing just because they're afraid that they are going to get yelled at if they don't have it available. And it's just this odd wheel thing, that keeps on spinning and spinning. And, there's nothing worse than pandering when it comes to this stuff like that. And a lot of times this stuff, when it comes to this drama, especially if it's like, seems to be forced or contrived, to me, it feels like a lot of it comes from pandering, or it's presented in a very dramatic way that it's not what occurred was not as bad as what you're saying. And, classic example, you're running a game at a game store, hey, I'm running this dungeon, and someone says, well, hey, what about a combat wheelchair? Like, you know what? No, because there's really no way for this particular device to be able to maneuver through here. We're going through, tiny, doorways and, tiny holes in the wall you're going to have to squeeze through. So, not this time. Maybe once we complete the dungeon, if you want to bring out a combat wheelchair like that, great, or another game or whatever. Meanwhile, 3.5 hours later, oh my God, I can't believe that this person is an ableist and he hates people in wheelchairs and disabled people because he didn't allow me to do da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And when you see that, I may be cynical, but a lot of times you see that stuff, you kind of look at it as, you're like, did it really happen that way? And it's kind of like, and you don't want to deny people in situations like that, but it kind of creeps up a bit. And again, this is self-contained with the virtual space, where if you took a moment to read some of these things, if you were like new to the hobby, and you hop on Tabletop RPG Twitter and you read a bunch of this shit.
I'd run away from the fucking hobby.
I'd run the fuck away. I'd say this is the most horrible thing on the planet. Why would I want to be involved in this? It's full of assholes everywhere and anywhere as far as the eye can see. And then I would go do model trains, which they're notorious for not having people who are horrible.
Right. But no, you're right. I mean, if you're an outsider looking into this hobby and you just see like what transpires in social media, because you're like, you're just quickly looking at, you're on Twitter or Blue Sky or MeWe or any Facebook, whatever, right? Pick your poison. Yeah. And you just do some quick hashtag searching, and you start seeing the dumpster fire du jour, and it's like, whoa,
Yeah.
You start reading the wrong one.
Right.
And it's like, oh my God, this is like, it's like a bigoted community. Like, I mean, it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But if you peel back the onion, you realize it's not that way. That's just like weird outliers out there who have to get on their soapboxes, scream into the void, and then they jump off and they disappear for a while whenever the kerfluffle settles.
Yep.
And then they reappear when they feel like they need to be heard again, and then they disappear.
Yes. Amplifying things more than necessary. And to be fair, most of those people may or may not even be playing games. They're just there because they're horrible people who want nothing more than to just make other people feel bad, and they get off on this kind of shit. So
I mean, we all know those people. Scott and I particularly know one individual who loves to get on his soapbox, spew something out into the void to a very small listening crowd.
Yeah.
And social media, and then stirs the pot, jumps off of his soapbox.
Yeah.
And then a few days later does the same thing again.
Yeah. Tabletop RPG tabloid is what I call it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
it's quite annoying.
Yeah. No, it is. And we make fun of it. I mean, we do. Recently made fun of the drama with that little fake, YouTube thumbnail, just like, oh my God, can Dungeons and Dragons give you rectal cancer? Watch my video, shit like that, where you're just like, oh,
that was
God.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
That was brilliant. Although I have a colonoscopy scheduled to see if I have rectal cancer from playing Dungeons and Dragons.
And they're gonna come back. Sir, you're like, oh my God, it's D&D. You're like, no, but you have a bit of Traveler. So,
ew, that's even worse.
So we may have to cut that out. And behind there may be some Chaosium. So,
as long as it's not mongoose, it'll be okay.
But maybe some antibiotics will take care of it, and go play a different game. But
as long as there's an index, we'll be okay.
And this is the fear of the RPG drama, because we exist within this this ever-present virtual medium. I'm not saying Traveler is bad. It was just a joke, people. I'm not saying Chaosium is bad. It's just a joke. And would like to, have a
humor.
Humor. So, but it does kind of, the more you get into the hobby, it does have the way of, eking, is that the term I'm looking for? Eking? Digging. Anyway, getting into your everyday affairs in regards to that, especially if you're going to cons and you're getting associated with people, within the hobby. Because I mean, until I started getting to know like you and Bud and other people who exist and work within the hobby, a lot of that stuff was just, in the atmosphere, which again is a majority of all the people who play games. Some people really just, they're just like, hey man, I could give a shit. I meet with my friends once a week. All of that is just useless noise. I've got a life to live. I'm just here to roll dice, and I could.
Right. Well, that's why I left. So I left.
Yeah.
Like Twitter.
Yeah.
I didn't leave it. I'm barely on Twitter anymore.
Yeah.
Because even though my Twitter feed is relatively curated, even being curated, there are still some individuals that have to stir the pot because they feel inspired. They have to be heard. And they have to stir the pot.
Yeah.
And they want to do them, fine. You do you, boo, and have fun.
Yeah.
But I don't need the drama in my life.
Yeah.
I have enough drama in my own life, with my own family.
Right.
I don't need it on social media.
Right.
So,
Yes.
fuck all that.
So I've gotten better. I mean, I've avoided a lot of the current stuff, primarily because, like I said, if it doesn't pertain directly to the hobby, like, hey, this person totally dicked over a bunch of people on Kickstarter, or, this person stole or plagiarized from something else, or things that actually pertain to it, that will creep up. I'll look into it, but I'm not in there, putting myself in certain things smart, because I just don't have time for that. And there was a particular post, which I'll credit to Jason Cordova, which made perfect sense in regards to this. I'm not going to quote it exactly, but it was something like, he made the realization that, he's been so busy playing games and doing other stuff that he didn't have time to get involved in the ridiculous aspects of the tabletop drama at all. And to be fair, I think that is a valid point, that if you are actually engaging in the hobby, from that level, either as a creator or a player or a GM or whatever, you really shouldn't have time for this shit. To be honest, this shit should be just passing you over on a daily basis, and some may trickle in.
Here's how we sum this up.
Yeah.
Play more fucking games.
Yep.
And stay off social media.
Yeah.
There's your advice.
Yeah. Or if you do see something, do what I've done many of times now. Drive by, or type it out and then delete it. You feel better; it's off your chest, and then get on with your day, because that's not your life. Your life is who you are, where you're at. Enjoy what you enjoy. Play with the people that you enjoy playing with. Don't let this thing bleed into your aspects of gaming to the point where it's causing you, discomfort, anxiety, or other things. Because to be perfectly honest, whatever happens to little Johnny and little Debbie, plus or minus, does not affect you whatsoever. So don't get wrapped up in it.
Fair.
Amen.
Fair. Amen. Can we get an amen?
Amen. So I will get off my soapbox, because I see it starting to buckle, and that makes me realize that, yes, I need to lose some more weight. So
I'm not saying anything. I think on that happy note, I think it's time we roll on out of here. I think we're done yelling into the clouds. Yeah. Thank you for allowing us to
rant and rave.
Rant.
Yeah,
we
are allowed our occasional rant.
Take us out of here, Scott. You need the exercise.
Oh shit! Let's head on to our next segment, and I'll meet you there covered in sweat.
All right, listeners, we are back with the final segment of this episode. As promised, we are going to talk about our Patreon voted for role-playing game. So during that poll, we had two options, The City of Mist and Troubleshooters. And Troubleshooters, the action-adventure role-playing game, was the winner. So here's the first part that we owe you. We owe our patrons. And we're going to talk about this game, written by Krister Sunderland, and we're going to just give a quick overview of the physical presentation of the game in this short segment. Scott, lay it on the listeners as far as what's this game about, and then we'll jump into what our impressions are.
Absolutely. So, Troubleshooters is essentially an action-adventure game. You play a group of troubleshooters that essentially are running around in a comic book stylized fantasy. I would say maybe like a 1960s spy intrigue thriller type type setting. But one of the things to focus on with this is what makes it special from other spy type role playing games out there is it's it is, I can talk, its aesthetic, which tends to emulate a lot of the classic Franco-Belgium comics from before. Comics like Tintin in its, artistic stylings, Asterix and Obelix, Valerian, Lucky Luke, and so on. But primarily, as far as the the setting is concerned, probably the quickest and easiest comparison would be with the Adventures of Tintin. But the artistic style tends to emulate all of those, who tend to they're very recognizable in their presentation. So it is one of the things that drew me and several other people into the game when it was kickstarted several years ago. And had an opportunity to play it shortly after it came out with one of the creators. And I think it really does a good job emulating that. But of course, that will be some of the details that we go into in later episodes as we go through the book more. So,
following on with that, the physical book is, I didn't take actual measurements, my bad, but it's taller and a little bit wider than our standard U.S. letter 8.5 by 11 books.
Yes.
So that is kind of, because it's a European printed book. So that's one of the things, American listeners, if you purchase this book down the road or already have it, you will notice that it is a little bit taller than our standard books.
Right.
That being said, it has a full color, it's hardcover only, has full color case wrap cover with a matching dust jacket. Mm-hmm. It's an actual gorgeous cover. I wish we were doing video so you could see it. It's a gorgeous cover. It really emulates the comics, right?
Yeah.
Just evokes, I should say, action adventure right from the get-go. So the book itself is 230-ish pages. From title page through the index at the back. That'll make some people happy that it has an index. Sorry, inside jokes. Scott, what's your impression of the general physical presentation of the way the chapters are laid out, the art?
I think it does myself personally, it does a really good job, and kind of when you first open up the book, of course, the art styling, really captures you. The inner illustrations of the cover when you open it up. There's some dramatic headshots of the various characters that you will be experiencing in the book. As it tends to go through several descriptions, you have like living representations of player characters who are communicating and operating as examples of gameplay and rules and whatnot within the book. The layouts, for me, the other good thing that it really does, it does remind me, as I'm flipping through it, very similar to the layout of the comics that I used to read in the library when I was little, the Asterix and the Tintin comics, who, in the graphic novelizations of them, the format, I believe they also had like an opening index, because a lot of the times they would incorporate several issues of the comic into one book. Easy to read, as far as I'm concerned, and it is dramatic. You know what I mean? It does have as far as the layout, the font, it does kind of capture a comic book action flair to it. There's no shortage of illustrations, word bubbles of characters talking to you to kind of draw you into the world.
Oh, absolutely. It's almost like reading a comic book in that sense, but everything, at least in my opinion, is smartly laid out, chapter by chapter, section by section within the chapters. Everything's easy to read. Things are nicely titled. Titles are, they stand out. Mm-hmm. Examples stand out. It's smartly done. Kudos to the layout artist who did it.
Yeah.
The accompanying art is brilliant. I have nothing but good things to say about all of the artwork. Mm-hmm. It's super evocative of the setting, the genre, its influences. Fantastic. Mm-hmm. The physical quality of the book. It's, like I said, it's the hardcover, the case wrap, nice sewn in purple silk bookmark.
Yep.
I can do words today too. No, it's just everything about it is really good in terms of its physical presentation.
Right. And it's a big job because at 244 pages and the amount of rules that are involved in this game. Now, of course, when we go talk about it in more detail in other episodes, you and I both share a bit of agreement on some of the organizational choices, but that's true of a lot of RPGs. Certain
that's fair. We'll get into those in other segments, but I think in general it is well laid out in terms of its physical presentation. Mm-hmm. It's a solid book. You could probably hammer a nail in with it. You might dent the cover a bit, but it's going to hold up. I think it's going to, other than the dust jackets don't tend to hold up well. Right. Over repeated use. When I'm reading mine, I take mine off just so I don't beat it up because they tend to slide and get crinkled on the ends.
Absolutely.
I know from experience, so that's why I take it off. But other than that, well done. Yeah. Well done.
Yeah. No, it is definitely it gets an A+ for presentation. Even if it's some of those rare ones where it's like the game just isn't for me. It definitely the organization, the presentation is spot on. But thankfully, the game itself it is a good game for various reasons. Which we will get to later. Now, a couple things to touch on, and you correct me if I'm wrong, is that before we move on to more details, I just wanted to ask one more aesthetic question: is the core rule book? I know that there's a lot of stuff in there that deals with creating adventures. I don't think it comes with a starting adventure in it, does it?
It does not, as far as I'm able to ascertain.
Right.
So that is something we can definitely discuss when we're discussing the book section by section.
Yes.
In future segments. Mm-hmm. That's definitely a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But
no, that's fine. So
we have opinions on that.
Yeah, exactly. Opinions are for the patrons, but or detailed opinions, I should say.
Yeah.
But overall, I anything that we haven't touched on as far as just the general aesthetic and the presentation of the game, because I feel like it's one of those things where, is it worthy of saying, you know what, if you're walking through a game store or bookstore and you see this, will this capture your eye? And for me, I
say yes.
I would say yes also. So I think with that, we are going to roll into the Patreon part as we talk more in detail about the aesthetics of this book. If you would like to listen more, definitely sign up for our Patreon, which you can find a link in the description. But we are also at patreon.com/titterpigs. And sign up, give us a little bit of support, and listen to us continue to babble on and on with our various opinions on the aesthetics, the layout, and other aspects of the book, and get other things that our Patreons only have access to.
Hey, Titterpigs fam, just a quick reminder, we do have our Patreon going on. It's patreon.com/titterpigs. You can show your support there. We have 2 tiers for you, a $3 and a $6 tier, so show us some love and be part of our growing community.
And speaking of our current community, I would like to give a shout out to our current Patreon members: Dr. Mitch, Jason Sheets, Bud's RPG Review, Dwayne Costa, William Payne, Lupus Malum, Salt Heart, Patrick Mullen, Dragon Girl 74, and our newest member, Crafty Matt Craft.